Be me 19, female uni student. Living with parents in quiet suburbs. Study sociology, focus on gender dynamics. Convinced that patriarchy oppresses all women. Dad is the textbook patriarch villain. Or so my textbooks always claimed. He pays bills, works 12 hours. Comes home tired, eats dinner alone. Never raises voice, always heads down. Social awkwardness radiates from his pores. He tries to hug mom, rejected. She flinches away like he burns. Pure love in his sad eyes. He worships the ground she walks. It is pathetic to watch daily. Mom is 40, aging like wine. She goes to gym, stays fit. Dad is balding, paunchy, worn out. He looks at her like magic. She looks at him like dirt. Context implies he is her simp. Unrequited love within a decades-long marriage. He buys her flowers every Friday. She puts them in water, silent. No thank you, no soft kiss. Just cold indifference filling the room. He smiles anyway, happy to serve. Crushing weight of rejection never registers. Or maybe he hides it well. I mocked him to my friends. Called him a spineless enabler online. Brother is 17, plays video games. Looks nothing like dad, tall, athletic. Dad loves him more than life. Takes him to practice, buys gear. Brother ignores him, wears headphones constantly. Dad stands there, wallet in hand. Desperate for connection, receiving only silence. The house feels cold, despite heating. Mom spends evenings on her phone. Smiling at screens, frowning at dad. Dad asks who she is texting. She says work friend, stop prying. He apologizes immediately, retreating to garage. Beta behavior triggers my deep disgust. Why does he not stand up? Why does he accept the crumbs? First love syndrome, he never learned. She was his first and only. He has no frame of reference. Thinks this coldness is normal marriage. I see him staring at photos. Wedding day pictures on the mantle. They looked happy then, decades ago. Now she sleeps in guest room. Claims his snoring keeps her awake. He accepted that lie without question. Sleeps on the couch some nights. Just to let her have peace. The level of self-sacrifice is sick. I felt no pity, only scorn. He is a man, he benefits. That was my dogma, my shield. Ignored the dark circles under eyes. Ignored the trembling in his hands. He works the graveyard shift often. Security guard at the local mall. Leaves at 9, returns at 7. Mom is energized when he leaves. Puts on perfume for empty house. Claims she liked feeling fresh alone. I never questioned her strange habits. Dad would kiss her cheek goodbye. She would turn her head slightly. Lips landing on ear or hair. He walks out into the night. Crushing weight of silence follows him. One night tension broke the routine. Dad came home early, sick leave. Flu or exhaustion, he looked pale. Walked in through the front door. Mom was not in the kitchen. House was silent, too quiet tonight. Brother was at a friend's house. I was studying in my room. Heard Dad's heavy boots in hall. He called out her name softly. No answer came from the bedroom. He walked to the guest room. Door was closed, light was off. He hesitated, hand hovering over knob. Social awkwardness paralyzed him for moments. Fear of disturbing her precious sleep. He turned away, went to kitchen. Made himself tea with shaking hands. Sat alone in the dark. I watched from the stairs, hidden. Wanted to see what he did. He pulled out his old wallet. Looked at the photo inside it. Sighed a sound of pure despair. He knows she does not love. But he cannot let her go. Toxic attachment defined his entire existence. Then the front door lock clicked. Mom walked in, laughing on phone. Didn't see Dad sitting in dark. She was dressed up, heels clicking. He is so stupid, she laughed. Spoke into the phone with malice. He thinks I am asleep home. Dad stood up, chair scraping floor. Mom froze, phone dropped from hand. Silence stretched, heavy and suffocating us. She looked at him with annoyance. Not fear, just pure irritated anger. Why are you here? She snapped. Dad just stared, teacup in hand. I live here, he whispered brokenly. She rolled her eyes, picked phone. I was out with the girls. Lie was obvious, even to me. Dad looked at her dress, heels. At 3 in the morning, Linda. First time I heard him push. She scoffed, walking past him cold. Don't start with your insecurities. She slammed the bedroom door shut. Left him standing there, ghost-like. I retreated to my room shaken. Saw the cracks in the foundation. Realized Dad was not the villain. He was the victim in plain sight. But the worst was yet coming. The event that shattered everything completely. Next morning, silence was a weapon. Mom made coffee, ignored Dad's existence. Dad sat there, eyes red puffy. He tried to speak, voice failed. She turned up the radio loud, drowning out his attempt at connection. Brother walked in, asking for cash. Need 50 for game, he grunted. Dad reached for wallet, automatic reflex. Then he stopped, hand freezing midair. Looked at brother, really looked him. Saw the height, the athletic build. Saw the face that wasn't his. Doubt crept in like black poison. Mom saw his hesitation, eyes narrowed. Give him the money, she ordered. Dad closed his wallet, hands shaking. No, he said, voice barely audible. Room went silent, radio still blaring. Brother looked confused, Mom looked furious. What did you say to him? I said no, Dad spoke louder. Social awkwardness replaced by cold dread. He stood up, legs trembling slightly. I want a test, he stated. Mom laughed, a sharp, cruel sound. You are pathetic, you know that. A DNA test, Dad clarified firmly. For both of them, he added, pointing at me and my brother. My heart stopped in my chest. I was Daddy's girl mostly. Surely he did not doubt me. Mom's face went pale, then red. How dare you insult me? She started screaming, throwing accusations wild, calling him insecure, controlling, abusive man. Dad stood still, taking the blows, like a statue weathering a storm. If you refuse, I leave. 6 words that stopped the world. He never threatened to leave before. He was the simp, the anchor. Mom stopped screaming, eyes wide open. Realized her ATM was malfunctioning hard. Fine, she spat, venom in voice. Waste your money, ruin this family. You will regret this, she warned. Dad looked at her with sorrow. I think I already do, he said. The house became a silent tomb. Dad slept on the living room couch. Mom stayed locked in the master bedroom. My brother and I were invisible. We ate cold cereal for dinner alone. Next morning was bitter, cold, and gray. Dad drove us to the clinic. Silence filled the car like water. Mom refused to look at Dad. She stared out the window angrily. We arrived at the medical center. The receptionist smiled a plastic fake smile. We waited in the hard chairs. The ticking clock was too loud. My name was finally called out. I walked into the small room. The nurse held a long swab. Open wide, she said very gently. It felt like signing a confession. Dad went next, face grim pale. Brother went last, looking so confused. Mom refused to be tested herself. Not necessary, she hissed at Dad. We drove home in heavy silence. The wait for results began then. 2 weeks of pure agonizing torture. Dinner table was a silent war zone. Clinking forks sounded like gunshots firing. Dad looked through me, not at me. That hurt more than his anger. I wanted to hug him tight. But an invisible wall stood there. Mom kept acting like the victim. She called Grandma to complain loudly. He is losing his mind, she said. He doubts his own beautiful children. Dad just turned up the TV, drowning out her lies with static. School became a blur of noise. I stared at the chalkboard blankly. Teachers asked if I was okay. I lied and said I was fine. Just tired, just a little sick. Truth was rotting me from inside. What if Dad was right, though? The thought was a poisonous seed. I looked in the bathroom mirror, searching for his features in mine. Did I have his nose eyes? I saw Mom's face staring back. Panic rose in my throat, bitter. Finally, the day of judgment came. A large envelope from the lab. Dad was at work, Mom home. She grabbed it from the box. I watched her from the stairs. She held it like a bomb. She did not open it yet. She put it on the table, waited for Dad to come home. The tension was thick and choking. Dad walked in at 6 sharp. Saw the envelope on the table. He froze, keys still in hand. Is there? He asked quietly. Mom nodded, arms crossed over chest. Open it, she dared him loudly. Prove yourself wrong, you stupid man. Dad picked up the paper knife. His hands shook more than before. He sliced the envelope top open, pulled out the sheets of paper. I held my breath watching him. Brother stood beside me looking scared. Dad read the first page slowly. His face went totally blank, empty. He flipped to the next page. A sound escaped his dry throat. A choked sob or a laugh. He looked up at Mom finally. Eyes were dead void of light. 0%, he whispered very softly. Zero probability of paternity for both. Mom's smug face dropped off instantly. That is a lie, she screamed. The lab made a huge mistake. Dad dropped the papers on floor. He looked at me and brother. Tears streamed down his tired face. I am not your real father. The world crashed down around me. My identity dissolved in that moment. Everything I knew was a lie. Mom lunged for the fallen papers, reading them with wide, frantic eyes. Her hands were trembling uncontrollably now. Dad walked past her to bedroom. He grabbed his pre-packed suitcases. He had been ready to leave. Suitcases hit the floor with heavy thud. Dad checked his watch like business meeting. No emotion left on his tired face. Mom grabbed his arm, screaming wild excuses. He shook her off with cold precision. "Get away from me," he said quietly. Brother started crying loud and ugly, sobbing. I stood frozen like a broken statue. Dad looked at us one last time. Eyes full of pity but no love. That look cut deeper than any knife. He did not say goodbye to us. He just turned and walked out the door. Front door slammed shut with finality. Silence filled the room, thick and choking. Mom collapsed on the rug, wailing loudly. Not for us, but for her money. She cursed his name between jagged breaths. I looked down at the crumpled papers. Bold black letters mocked my entire existence. 0% stared back at me, hateful. My blood felt foreign in my veins. Brother tugged my shirt, looking for comfort. I pushed him away without thinking why. Sick feeling rose up in my stomach. Mom sat up and wiped her face. Her eyes were manic and terrifyingly bright. "Call him back," she hissed at me. "Tell him you need him right now." I shook my head, slowly backing away. She lunged and grabbed my narrow shoulders. "Tell him to come back, you brat." Her nails dug into my skin hard. I saw a stranger in her eyes. This was not the mother I knew. This was a desperate, cornered wild animal. I wrenched free and ran to bedroom. Locked the door with trembling white hands. Brother pounded on the wood, begging entry. I slid down against the cold wall. Outside the window, his car engine started. I crawled over to peek through blinds. Red tail lights faded into the darkness. He really left us behind like trash. My heart shattered into a million pieces. Tears finally came, hot and stinging fast. I hated him for leaving so easily. I hated her for making him go. I hated myself for being the lie. Downstairs, Mom was throwing things around violently. Glass shattered against walls, echoing through house. She screamed about lawyers and alimony checks. Never once did she call our names. We were just pawns in her game, and we had just lost all value. Night fell heavy over the broken home. Darkness swallowed the last of my childhood. I stared at the ceiling, feeling hollow, waiting for a dawn that wouldn't come. Weeks bled into months of gray silence. Mother drank cheap wine and stared blankly. House rotted slowly around our living corpses. She looked at me with cold resentment, living, breathing reminder of her secret shame. Dad was gone, and he stayed gone. Knew he was never coming back home. Became a ghost in my own house. School was just a different open prison. Walked through crowded halls, completely invisible. Sitting alone at the cracked lunch table. Stale sandwich tasted like dry cardboard ash. Watched other kids laughing with their friends. Felt like an alien observing another species. They had fathers who actually wanted them. They had homes that were not broken. I had nothing but a hollow chest. Hiding in the library during free periods. Smelling old paper and dust was safe. Burying my face in escapist fantasy novels. Pretending to be a hero somewhere else. Escaping the crushing weight of my reality. Rain lashed against the library windows hard. Thunder rumbled low in the distance outside. Then I saw her sitting near shelves. Soft reading light bathed her pale skin. She was reading a heavy astronomy book. Sunlight caught stray hairs escaping her bun. World stopped spinning for a single heartbeat. Felt a spark in my dead heart. She looked up and caught my stare. Bright blue eyes pierced through my soul. Panicked and looked down at my hands. Heart hammered against ribs like trapped bird. Cheeks burned hot with sudden intense shame. Wanted to run away and hide forever. Terrified she saw the filth inside me. But also wanted to stay right there. She offered a small, tentative, kind smile. First kindness I had seen in years. Didn't know how to react to it. Just froze like a deer in headlights. She went back to her reading quietly. Watched her from the corner of eye. She was beautiful in a quiet way. Not the popular loud cheerleader type at all. Wore oversized sweaters and thick vintage glasses. Seemed just as lonely as I was. Obsession took root in that quiet moment. She became the anchor in my storm. I needed to know her name desperately. Gathered every ounce of courage I possessed. Stood up on legs that felt weak. Walked over pretending to look for books. Hands shaking violently inside my hoodie pocket. She didn't look up as I passed. Smelled like vanilla and old rain water. Glanced at the notebook open beside her. Neat handwriting spelled out the name Sarah. Name echoed in my mind like prayer. Retreated to the shadows to watch her. Stalking her became my new daily ritual. Learned her schedule by heart within days. Knew she took the bus number 40. Knew she ate apples for lunch always. Never spoke a single word to her. Content to worship her from the dark. She was the sun I orbited around. Pathetic satellite caught in her gravity, terrified to break the delicate silence between. If I spoke, the illusion might shatter. Kept my distance like a leper would. Convinced my touch would only ruin her. She was pure and I was tainted. Watched her laughing with some tall guy. Felt my stomach drop into endless void. He touched her arm so casually there. Wanted to scream until my throat bled. Followed them down the wet pavement blocks. Rain started falling heavy and cold tonight. Hid behind the corner of the bakery. Saw them share an umbrella walking close. Jealousy burned through my veins like acid. Returned to my room soaked and shivering. Stared at the ceiling in total darkness. Imagined scenarios where he did not exist. She belonged to me in my dreams. Reality was a cruel and bitter pill. Decided to leave a note for her. Spent hours writing the perfect first sentence. Tore up pages of desperate shaky handwriting. Floor covered in crumpled balls of paper. Finally wrote 3 words on blue card. Slipped it into her locker next morning. Heart hammered against my ribs like drum. Waited by the water fountain to watch. She opened the metal door with ease. Small blue card fell to the floor. She did not even notice it fall. Walked away leaving my soul in dust. Someone stepped on it a moment later. Dirty footprints stamped on my pure love. Realized I was invisible to her world. Pain was sharper than a serrated knife. Needed to escalate my presence in life. Found where she worked on the weekends. Small coffee shop near the old park. Sat in the corner booth every Saturday. Ordered black coffee I hated to drink. Bitter taste matched my mood perfectly well. Watched her pour milk into ceramic cups. Way she smiled at customers killed me. Why could I not be one of them? Bought a sketchbook to draw her face. Charcoal smudges covered my trembling pale hands. Caught her looking at me once today. Froze like a deer in high beam. She offered a polite but distant smile. Nearly fainted from that brief eye contact. Went home and framed the finished sketch. Shrine in my closet was growing larger. Stolen pencil she dropped was the centerpiece. Obsessing over her became a full-time job. Grades started slipping down the drain fast. Parents asked if I was feeling all right. Told them to leave me alone forever. Isolation became my only true safe friend. Winter came and the days grew short. Saw her crying on a park bench. That tall guy was yelling at her. Rage boiled inside my chest like magma. Wanted to protect her from his cruelty. Clenched my fists until knuckles turned white. But fear kept me rooted to spot. Watched him walk away, leaving her there. Opportunity to comfort her presented itself now. Legs refused to move an inch forward. Paralyzed by the fear of rejection again. Watched her wipe tears and walk away. Opportunity slipped through my fingers like sand. Hated myself for being such a coward. Discovered a song that described my pain. Singer spoke of letting her go now. Played the track on repeat all night. Lyrics mocked my inability to speak up. Staring at the bottom of my glass. Hoping you would make a dream last. Dreams come slow and go so fast. See her when I close my eyes. Maybe one day you will understand why. Everything I touched surely withered and died. Confined in the prison of my mind. Darkness was the only light I knew. Woke up with a pounding headache today. Sun mocked me through the dirty window. Decided today was the day for change. Turned off the sad music on iPod. Washed face and looked in the mirror. Eyes looked red and tired from crying. Put on my least wrinkled black shirt. Walked to school with a heavy heart. Saw her standing by the main lockers. She looked sadder than she did yesterday. That tall guy was nowhere to be seen. This was the moment destiny promised me. Rehearsed the perfect opening line in head. Palms started sweating profusely against my jeans. Took a deep breath to steady nerves. Walked towards her like a marching soldier. Heart hammered against ribs like a drum. She turned around and made eye contact. Frozen in place like a deer in headlights. Words died in my throat instantly then. She offered a small and polite smile. Smile broke me into a million pieces. Managed to stutter out a weak hello. She asked if I was feeling okay. Face turned bright red from sudden shame. Wanted to confess my undying love now. Instead I nodded and looked at floor. Silence stretched between us like a rubber band. Wished the ground would swallow me whole. Suddenly the tall guy appeared from corner. He put his arm around her shoulder. My stomach dropped to my feet instantly. She looked at him with pure relief. Realized I was just a background character. Mumbled an excuse and walked away fast. Hid in the bathroom stall to breathe. Tears threatened to spill over my eyelids. Punched the metal door with weak fist. Pain was better than the emotional numbness. Bell rang signaling the start of class. Had to face the world again soon. Walked to class with head down low. Sat in the back row by window. Teacher spoke words that meant nothing now. Drew dark doodles in my spiral notebook. She walked in late and apologized softly. Sat 2 rows ahead of my desk. Could smell her vanilla perfume from here. It was torture existing in her orbit. Watched the back of her head silently. Imagined a life where I was brave. Class ended and everyone rushed out quickly. Stayed seated until the room was empty. Didn't want to see them together again. Walked home taking the long, lonely route. Kicked stones on the pavement in frustration. Saw a flower growing through the concrete. Ripped it out without a second thought. Cruelty felt good in a twisted way. Realized I was becoming something very bitter. Opened laptop to check her social media. Saw photos of them looking happy together. Caption read about love and second chances. Felt like throwing the computer across room. Why could I not be happy for her? Selfishness consumed every part of my soul. Darkness was not just outside, but inside. Decided to change everything about myself now. Went to the mall to buy clothes. Bought a jacket similar to his style. Felt ridiculous wearing something so not me. Cut my hair in the bathroom sink. Looked jagged and uneven in the light. Convinced myself it looked edgy and cool. Next day, walked into the cafeteria confidently. Scanned the room looking for her face. Spotted them sitting at the center table, laughing at something on his phone screen. Walked past hoping she would notice me. She looked up and furrowed her brows. Confusion was evident on her lovely face. She did not recognize who I was. Realized I was a stranger to her. Stranger in my own skin and life. Dumped my lunch tray in the trash. Appetite was gone, along with my dignity. Ran to the library to hide away. Surrounded by books but learning absolutely nothing. Wrote her name in a dusty book. Erased it quickly before anyone could see. Paranoia was becoming a constant companion now. Lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Same old empty feeling in my heart. Love comes slow and it goes fast. Lyrics played in loop inside my head. Knew I loved her too late now. Never actually had her to let go. That was the cruelest joke of all. Mourning a relationship that never even existed. Fantasy was stronger than the cold reality. Woke up early feeling cold and empty. Walked to school through the freezing rain. Saw her standing near the heated vents. Gathered courage to speak one more time. Approached her with shaking hands and sweat. She turned around and smiled at him. Realized she was looking past my shoulder. He walked up and kissed her cheek. Felt my stomach drop to the floor. Turned away before they could see me. Sat behind them in the biology class. Heard them whispering jokes during the lecture. Tried to focus on the cellular diagrams. Teacher called on me for an answer. Mind was blank staring at the board. Stuttered incoherent nonsense about the cell walls. Class erupted in laughter at my expense. Saw her cover her mouth to giggle. That hurt more than the public humiliation. Bell rang saving me from further pain. Rushed out the door without looking back. Skipped next period to sit in car. Radio played that same sad acoustic song. Stared at windshield fighting back the tears. Drove around aimlessly until tank was empty. Parked near old bridge outside of town. Watched water flow under the thick ice. Pulled out phone and checked her profile. New status update confirming what I feared. Relationship tag mocking my entire lonely existence. Threw the phone onto the passenger seat. Screamed until throat felt raw and sore. Silence returned louder than the noise before. Drove home silent, feeling completely numb inside. Mother asked about my day at dinner. Lied through teeth saying everything was fine. Food tasted like ash in my mouth. Went upstairs to isolate myself once again. Open window to feel the biting cold. Watch streetlights flicker in the dark night. Opened the old sketchbook from last year. Drawings of her covered every single page. Tore the pages out one by one. Shredded paper piled up on the floor. Destroying memories that were never really real. Fell asleep amidst the ruins of obsession. Woke up surrounded by the torn paper. Realized I had created a huge mess. Shoved the scraps into a plastic bag. Threw them in the outside garbage bin. Felt lighter, but also strangely hollow inside. Returned to school with a darker mood. Avoided the hallway where she usually stood. Took the long way to every class. Saw them again in the cafeteria line. He was feeding her fries like children. Anger started boiling deep in my gut. Why does he get to be happy? I changed everything about myself for her. Resentment was poisoning my view of them. Friends asked me what was wrong today. Snapped at them to leave me alone. Pushed away the only people who cared. Sat alone at a corner table brooding. Watched them leave holding hands so tightly. Imagined tripping him as he walked by. Dark intrusive thoughts were getting much louder. Clenched fists until my knuckles turned white. Scared of what I might actually do. Needed to escape this toxic environment now. Left school early feigning a stomach ache. Nurse looked concerned but signed the pass. Walked home in the middle of day. Shadows stretched long across the empty street. World felt wrong when you are alone. Saw a couple kissing on a bench. Looked away feeling bitter and completely jaded. Love was a lie sold in movies. Locked my bedroom door against the world. Stared at the mirror hating my reflection. New clothes could not hide the loser. Same sad eyes staring back at me.